Welcome to the Beer Frontier. My name is Gage.
And I'm Robert, and we're here for the beer. Today we're going to be looking at a style of beer known as Pilsner, or Pils. We will review a couple of local Pilsners.
Enzo, our pet chef, will show us how to make something using this beer.
Gage is going to visit a microbrewery.
And we will finish up with an import, an Austrian Pilsner.
Oh, I'm looking forward to that one. But first, a little background about Pilsner. It was a style that was developed in the city of Pilsen, which was in Bohemia, but is now in the Czech Republic.
Yeah, it's from the mid-1800s. They developed a lighter, more sort of golden-coloured malt, and they also started using hops, Saaz hops, which are indigenous to this part of Europe. And what they came up with was a revolutionary light golden, lightly hopped or balanced hopped beer, typically 4 to 5% alcohol. This was quite different to the beers before, which were cloudy and dark. So it was a sensation at the time.
Okay, we know that the Germans had experimented with maturing beer in caves, cool caves, to help with, and bottom fermenting them as well, to help with the clarity in that. And this guy gave rise to the expression lager, meaning to store. So would I be correct in saying that the word lager actually refers to the maturing process rather than a brewing recipe as such?
Yeah, originally lager did mean the maturation process, the storage in the caves as the yeast dropped out, but now it means a style. And on our sort of family tree of beers, we've got the two big groups, the ales and the lagers. And Pilsener is a type of lager. It's a bit like bourbon is a type of whiskey, but not all whiskies are bourbon. So Pilsener is a style of lager, but not all lagers are Pilsners.
Yes, okay. Yeah. Okay, so some classic examples of Pilsner, the original one from Czechoslovakia, Urkel Pilsner, Warsteiner from Germany, Grolsch from Holland, and Stella Artois from Belgium.
So this is this dry, hoppy lager where there's a balance between the hops and the malt, and typically a light golden colour with alcohol about 4 or 5%.
Okay, and a sort of slight bitterness as a result. Yes.
So on the sort of our beer map or our style map, it's almost the bottom right-hand corner of the light golden colour where we're looking with, it's got hoppy flavours and aromas, but the hops and the malts are in balance and harmony.
Okay. Now, before we go off and talk to Ben, our home brewer, I believe, Gage, that we should talk a little bit about the temperature that you drink beer at. So what would you say is the best temperatures for drinking beer?
Well, the best temperature actually depends on the style of beer. So if you're drinking a quality wheat beer or a lager or a Pilsner, about 6 or 7 degrees. If you're drinking an ale, probably 10 to 12 degrees. And if you're drinking, say, a strong Belgian ale, you want to go all the way up to 14. Now, of course, if you're drinking an industrial beer, and you have to have it so cold it just about numbs your taste buds, so you want it below 4. Now, what this is all about is you get more flavour when the beers are warmer, and if the beers are cooler, it's more refreshing. And we live in a hot climate, so we want to be refreshed by beers.
Okay. Now, what about the English predilection for drinking beer at room temperature?
The alleged room temperature is a bit silly unless you live somewhere where the room temperature is 12 degrees. Okay. So we don't. We're more like 20 degrees, so it's really irrelevant.
Okay. All right, well, let's go and see what Ben, the brewer, is up to.
G'day guys, welcome back to my backyard, and this week I'm going to be taking you through the process of milling and explaining to you a bit about this stuff here, which is the malted barley we mentioned the other week. So malted barley, this is the stuff we make beer with. Funny that. Basically what we have to do is crush it. In crushing the barley, what we're going to be trying to achieve is to smash the husk, break it in two, and get out the fines that are inside of there. And by fines, I mean the sugars. This started off life as starch, but because this has been malted at the malt house, there's sugar inside there. We need to get that sugar out so that we can use it to make our beer. And then we actually want to use the husk to act as a grain bed when we're going to be lautering our beer later off. So when we're sending the sweet water through to make our beer, we want to add that as a filter bed. How do we do that? Well, you can invest in a mill such as the one that I have here. This is a very small one being chewed by my little bunny there. And what are the advantages, disadvantages? Well, okay, so you can order your grain pre-crushed if you want to, and in fact most people will. It's quite simple, it's quite easy. The advantage is you don't have to invest, of course, in a mill. The disadvantage is that your grain has to be pre-ordered and you have to use it straight away. If you invest in a mill, well, it means that you can buy big sacks of grain, have those stored away, and you'll be able to come and make beer on the very day, crush it on the day, and you're going to have a fresher product that doesn't go stale. So simple as that. All right, so let's take an actual look at the mill itself and how it works. It's pretty straightforward. I'll just pop this off here. Okay, basically we have a drill attached there. We could use a crank handle if you wanted to. I think the ideal rate is about 200 revolutions a minute if we need to know that, but we can replicate that nicely with the drill. It's a pretty simple process. We just put our little hopper on here, budgetly made, and turn the drill on and pour some grain in. And there it is, we've got all our grain milled. So basically, down in here, I've got a fantastic mix of those flours I talked about and the husks, which is going to work beautifully for me. And this is now all ready for us to go put it into our mash tun for our next step, which will be our mashing.
Welcome back to the keg room. We're now going to look at a couple of local Pilsners. The first one's Goodieson from McLaren Vale in South Australia. The second one is Red Angus from the William Bull Brewery in Griffith in New South Wales. The Goodieson beer, the brewery's been around for a couple of years. They make a pale ale as well as the Pilsener. The brewer is ex-line Nathan, and he studied at Ballarat University, so he's certainly got both the practical and the theoretical experience to produce good beer. Yeah. The William Bull beer's been around for a couple of years too. This is from Griffith. It's owned by the De Bortley family of the winemakers. And they've got a track record of really getting it right with making wine for what Australian consumers want. They don't make any other beer at this stage. So I'm going to say over to you, Robert. What do you think of the Goodieson?
The Goodieson, well, it's quite a high carbonation. It's got quite a hoppy taste to it too. But it's a bit watery in the finish for me. It's a bit like a good home brew, I think, is my interpretation of it. It's not a bad beer, but I'll give it 3 stars.
Yeah, I reckon it's the hop addition for the aroma hops is too coarse for a great Pilsener, and it's also a bit too bitter. It's lacking the subtlety that you get in great Pilseners. It's not a bad beer, but I don't think of it as a Pilsener. I just think of it as a reasonable sort of hoppy lager. Yeah, I'd give this one 3 stars out of 5. Yeah.
Okay. Well, moving on to the Red Angus now, and straight away I'm struck by the smell of it. It doesn't smell nearly as nice as the other one. This has got a bit more of a yeasty smell to it, sort of banana-ish even, and even it tastes a bit banana-y to me too. So which tells me that the yeast is dominating rather than the hops or the hops or the malt. Not quite as nice a beer, I don't think. I'll give that 2 stars. Yeah,
the thing which really struck me, Robert, was It's got some sort of sulfur type compounds on the nose, some sort of fermentation characters that I wasn't expecting and took me by surprise. And again, the hop regime in this, it's too coarse. It's not sophisticated beer. I mean, it's not bad beer, but it's certainly not comparable to the great Pilsners of Europe. There are reasonable Australian ones, I'm sure, but no, this is just not up there. I'm giving this 2.5 out of 5.
2.5. Okay.